For this assignment, we are going to be designing senior slideshows. And just so you guys know, it is a tradition here at Sama High School to create a senior slideshow. So at the end of the school year, all the seniors go into the gym and they have a farewell assembly and they play the senior slideshow in front of everybody. Here are some examples of some slides that we've created in the past years. We cut out the student and we customize the background and we add their text and we add some text effects to the fonts. This is what we are going to create today. This is going to be the end product. We're going to cut out the student. We're going to add a background. We're going to add text. We're going to add effects. This is how the photo looks when we start. And this is how it looks like when we finish. Let's get started. First, we're going to copy the assets. So I need you guys to go to the public drive, go to number 2 photography, and copy the My Senior Slideshows folder. Copy that, press Ctrl C to copy. Then we're gonna go to our photography folder on our desktop, double click that and press Ctrl V to copy and paste the My Senior Slideshows into your photography folder. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to launch Adobe Bridge, navigate to your desktop, go to photography. Then we're gonna make your My Senior Slideshows a favorite. So drag and drop the folder into the favorites window. And now My Senior Slideshows is now a favorite, and this is going to be easy for you guys when you guys come to class and when you guys are working on this project. All you got to do is go to your favorites tab and click on this folder and all of your files are going to show up. So let's see what's inside this folder for now. We have a backgrounds folder. You can double click the backgrounds folder and you can see the different backgrounds that we're going to be using for this project. At the very end, you're going to see the template. This is the template that we're going to be using to design our slideshow. And notice the name, it's called SLN SFN underscore IMG number underscore LNFN. That pretty much means senior last name, senior first name, underscore, image number, underscore, your last name, your first name. Let's go back one to bring us back to the top. For every senior that you design, you're gonna have a folder just for them. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to copy and paste the senior pictures. You're going to see a senior portraits folder. This is the folder that's going to contain everyone's senior pictures. I don't have all of them in here yet, but once we start working on this assignment, you're gonna see everyone's pictures in here. For this assignment, we're going to cut out Andrew. So let's go ahead and select Andrew and press Ctrl C to copy that JPEG. Let's go back to Adobe Bridge and we're gonna have to create a brand new folder for it. In Adobe Bridge, you can right click and select new folder, and let's call this Rodriguez Andrew. Double click it and press Ctrl V to paste Andrew Rodriguez's picture inside of his folder. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the background. Double click the JPEG and this is going to open up in Adobe Photoshop. Before you get started, let's reset the workspace. Go to Window, Workspace, Reset Photography. The easiest way to cut out the subject is to go to Select Subject. And it does a pretty good job at selecting the subject, but it didn't do a perfect job. So notice how this part, it's leaving out the shoulder. And notice how it didn't select the full ear. In the toolbar at the very bottom, click on Edit in Quick Mask Mode. And whatever you see red, that's what's going to be deleted, and whatever you see, that's what's going to stay. So let's zoom in to the ear and press B for brush. And if you right click on the brush, you can select a hardness. So I'm going to go with 85% hardness. Next, press D to reset your foreground and background colors. Then press the letter X. And with the color white, let's go ahead and paint in the ear. Let's bring that back a little bit. And if you press the space bar, you can kind of move down. And I'm gonna fix his shoulder here a little bit, something like this. I'm painting this in, right? So if you paint with white, you're gonna bring in the detail. And if you paint with black, you're gonna subtract, you're gonna hide. Okay, so I'm gonna just move around here and make sure that I have everything selected. I think there's a spot here that needs to be fixed. And I'm noticing here, like the hair, it does have a hard edge, and I want to make this softer. So with the brush tool, I'm going to go to the settings and I'm going to pick a softer brush. I'm going to pick a smaller brush, and I'm just going to kind of paint the edge a little bit just to make this a little bit softer. I'm going to fix the ear here. I'm pretty much just going around painting where I feel like it needs to be fixed. And if you mess up, if you do this like by accident, right? I did it on purpose, but if you do that by accident, if you press the letter X, notice how my foreground is now black. And with black, I can come in here and I can paint with red. And if you paint with red, this is going to delete. If I press the letter X, my white changes again, and now I can paint with white. This looks pretty good. It looks like my subject is fully selected. Let's go back to the toolbar at the very bottom. Click on the edit and quick mask mode again, and notice how you have the marching ants. In your layer panel, at the bottom of the layer panel, click on the layer mask icon. That's going to make your background go away. And the last thing we're going to do here is save this. So go to File and Save. And once you're done with this, you can close this document. So if you go back to Adobe Bridge, inside of your My Senior Slideshows folder, you should have a Rodriguez Andrew folder. If you double click it, you're going to have two files, right? You have your original headshot, then you have the cutout, the PSD. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to design the slideshow. So let's go back to My Senior Slideshow, double click backgrounds, and we have all these backgrounds, but we're not going to open these yet. The next step is to open up your template. It's really important that you open the template first. Double click the template. You have your template, and you're going to see some guides. These guides are going to be helpful, and we're going to be using these guides. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the headshot to our template. Before we get started, we need to save a copy of this. So go to File, Save As, navigate to the Rodriguez Andrew folder. Pay attention to the file structure that I have for you guys here. SLN, SFN, that means senior last name, senior first name. So we're going to type in Rodriguez Andrew. We don't have an image number today, but if you do have an image number, that's where you put it. I'm going to delete that. And then last, LNFN, that means last name, first name. So I'm going to put my last name, my first name, and for the format, pick Photoshop, then press save. The next step is to add the headshot. So let's go back to Adobe Bridge, and let's go back to My Senior Slideshows. We'll double click Rodriguez Andrew, and we're going to drag and drop the PSD onto the template just like this. And we're going to move Andrew to the left because he's looking toward the right, and you want to put his name on the right side because he's looking to the right. If he was looking to the left, I would put him on this side so that he's looking at his name, but because he's looking camera right, so let's move him to the left, and we're going to resize this photo. Now these guides are really important because the top guide, this is where you want to put the top of his head, on the very, very top guide. You don't want him to go too high up. You want it to rest just right there. And then this outside guide here, you want to put the left ear on the outside guide, and we can make this a little bit bigger. It's really important that you resize all of the headshots about the same so that when we watch the entire slideshow, everything is pretty consistent, right? Everything's pretty much the same size. So let's all follow these guidelines so that everything looks uniform. All right, so I'm gonna put the head right there on that top line. His ear, I'm gonna move it to the left. And this is roughly the size of the head that I want. I made him a little bit bigger. Once you're done, you can press the commit button right here, right on the top. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a background. So click on the background layer. Let's go back to Adobe Bridge. Click on My Senior Slideshows, double click backgrounds. And there's so many different cool backgrounds that we can use. For this example, I'm gonna go with the brick. All you gotta do is drag and drop the brick onto the template. Notice how you see black on the left and black on the right. So let's go ahead and resize the background by grabbing the corners and dragging it to make it a little bit bigger. And once you're happy with it, you can press enter. Okay guys, so we only have about 6 backgrounds to use and we have about 400 seniors to cut out. So we're all gonna customize the background so that there's not one background that looks exactly like another background. And there's different things that we can do. We can blur out the background, we could flip the background, we can rotate the background, we can invert the background, we can change the color of the background. There's so many different things that we can do. So for this background, we're gonna make it a little bit blurrier, just because I feel like the background's too sharp and it's sharper than the subject, and I want the subject to be the sharpest thing in this photo. So with the background layer selected, go to filter, go to blur, and let's go to Gaussian and blur. And I'm gonna pick 2.0, then press OK. Another thing you can do is you could rotate your background. You can go to edit, transform, flip horizontal, and that's gonna flip your background. Or you can go to edit, transform, flip vertical. The next thing we're gonna do to this background is we're gonna change the color of it. So go down to the adjustment layer and click on hue saturation. Click on the colorize check mark. And I'm gonna pick a blue, something like this. For the saturation, I'm gonna bring this to the left a little. And for the lightness, I'm gonna go dark, like a navy blue, something like this, so that my subject pops out. All right, my background looks good. I blurred out the background. I changed the color of the background. I flipped the background. I'm ready to add some text. Before you add the text, it's very important that you click on the top layer, press the letter T for the text tool. We're gonna type his first name on one line. So that's Andrew. Press enter, then type Rodriguez. Press the commit button on top. I'm gonna go ahead and resize my text, something like this. It's really important, guys, that you make your text as big as possible without going outside of your guides. I don't like the color of this. This is like a dark blue. So I'm gonna change this to white for now. I don't like the spacing. I can change the spacing here. So if you double click the text and if you go to window and character, you do have your character panel where you can change the leading. So you can change the vertical spacing in between the different words. And you can also change the tracking. I'm gonna keep mine at 0. I'm liking this a lot. And it's really important, guys, that you change the color of your text and you make it match whatever your subject is wearing. So because Andrew's wearing a red bow tie, I'm gonna change my font color to red. So to do that, double click the T in the layer panel. I'm gonna click right up here, guys, in the color swatch, and I'm gonna pick a red, something like this. Or I can use the eyedropper tool. This might be a little bit easier, guys. So I can just click wherever I want on the image to pick a color. I'm gonna pick this dark red, something like that, and press OK. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna warp this text. We're gonna add an effect to the text. So at the very top, click on the warp text. For the style, I'm gonna go with flag. And for the bend, I'm gonna try 15 and press OK. And click the check mark. All right, that's looking good. Now it's time to add some effects. So with the Andrew Rodriguez text layer selected at the very bottom, click on effects and let's go to stroke. For the position, make sure that you have outside selected. For the size, I'm gonna pick 5. And for the color, I'm gonna pick white, then press OK. All right, let's add more effects to the text. Click on bevel and emboss. For the style, we can go outer bevel. And for the technique, let's do smooth. And for the size, let's try 5. That looks pretty good. And let's see, for the highlight mode, let's go with the white. And for the shadow mode, let's go black. and the blend mode should be multiply, and let's change the opacity to about 40%. That looks really good. I'm gonna add one more effect to this and then we're almost done. I'm gonna add a drop shadow and that looks good. For opacity, I'm gonna go 55, distance 30, and spread 0. And for the size, let's go 6. And once you're happy with it, you can press OK. This is looking really good. Don't forget to save your work. So go to File and Save. You want to save the Photoshop document, press OK. And once it's good to go, once I approve it, there's no typos, the text looks good. Once everything looks good, we are going to make this into a JPEG. Then we're going to turn it into the drop-off folder. Let's go ahead and save this as a JPEG. Go to File, Save a Copy. For the format, we're going to pick JPEG, keep everything the same, only delete the word copy, then press Save. Quality needs to be 12, then press OK. Let's close this. Let's go back to Adobe Bridge. Let's go back to My Senior Slideshows. Double click on Rodriguez Andrew. If you did this correct, you're gonna have 4 files inside of the student's folder, right? So number 1, you're gonna have the original JPEG, got it. Number 2, you're gonna have the cutout PSD of the original file. Number 3, you're gonna have the PSD template. And the reason why you need to save the PSD file is because if you misspell the name, or if you don't like the background, or if you need to fix something, you need to go back to the original Photoshop document to edit it. Then once it's done and finalized, then you can make it a JPEG, and that's gonna be this file here. This is the JPEG. And this is the file that you're going to turn into the drop-off folder. And that's pretty much it, guys. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. But that's how simple it is to design the senior slideshow.